Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
Well, hey, did you get any rest?
I absolutely did. I slept very, very well last night in my own bed.
In your own bed. Folks, I'm talking to the winner of the 2023 UKC Tournament of Champions, Jeff Ricklefs. Jeff, how's that feel?
Man, it's awesome. You always going into something like that. Of course, you always think, boy, that'd be a sweet win. You just never know when it's going to happen. And I've had the great opportunity and fortune to win a few big ones in my life. And when it's all said and done, you look back and think, man, that was fun. And it was just, it seems like they go so smooth. And so, it's definitely had time to sink in the last couple of days. And it's an awesome feeling. That's top of the line hunt they put on.
Oh, for sure. And I was watching some of the coverage there. And I want to talk a little bit about that as we go along too. But and I had to chuckle with you there at the end when Alan Gingrich was interviewing you there after the win, and you had you were talking about John Strickland telling you, that you really needed to go to that hunt, and you were like, whatever.
Yeah. It's another coon hunt.
Yeah, really. Well, I was privileged to go out there the first year, and man, they do it up right, don't they?
Unbelievable red carpet treatment for we're all so used to, especially us that have been around a long time, just going to the old Coon Hunters Club, and this is not anything like that. It's unbelievable, the venue and the way they treat you. Some of I'm not down in any registry. I hunt them all, and I like them all, but they could take some notes from this one. You feel like you're wanted and welcomed, and it's great.
Yeah, I think UKC back about 3 years ago, or maybe it's been 4, since I know it's 3 years for the Tournament of Champions, but back when they started planning all this, I think they had an overall plan, that they needed to do something. And they came up with this idea, these 5 cast wins, and qualify for a Tournament of Champions, which spins off of the fact that you make Nite Champion on 5 wins. And, when I was asked to come out and be part of the analysis effort there with J. Paul and all, of course I agreed. I said, man, that sounds like a lot of fun, But until I got out there and saw the effort that they put into everything, I've been to a few coon hunts myself and tried to do a good job in presentation. But I don't think anybody in the game today is really touching UKC as far as in the actual presentation of the event and the way they're, treating the hunters. And man, they kept you fed out there, didn't they?
Oh my goodness. It's, it's unbelievable that everything they do, but got a little bit of that, what I want to say, atmosphere and what they're all about at me and Hobo made it to the World Hunt Finals last year down there in Tennessee, and it's a little bit similar, pretty close. And I was I was impressed with that, and John's like there again. John Strickland was like, "Oh, you go to the TOC this year. If you make it to the finals," he said, "you'll really see it." And I was, like I said, I was blown away. It's quite the like I've talked to several people over the last couple of days, and it's pretty cool. You don't think about it either. And Alan brought it up more than once about how you don't have to be a rich man to hunt in that.
Yeah.
It's anybody, it's $150 entry, and all you got to do is go win your 5 casts. And
right.
It's a completely different deal than we hunt in most of the time, and pretty cool. It really was great.
Yeah, it really is. And on that point, Jeff, we got a little plot dog, a partner, me and I, down in North Carolina. We knew the dog wasn't ready for this stage, but hey, he had his 5 wins. Let's go give it a shot,
Well,
because,
absolutely.
crazier things have happened,
I
but just,
promise you.
yeah, but man, nobody should turn down that opportunity.
No, not at all.
Yeah, really. Well, I was going to save this for later on, but I might as well just throw it out there, and I'll get some booze on this and all. The only thing, and I'm a glasses half full kind of guy. The only thing I think they need to work on is that final cast coverage to get that video working.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what happened this year. I know they had planned to video the final cast. I have no idea. I stayed up pretty late, but I didn't stay up for the whole thing. But then I saw later that apparently there was no video coverage, although they did have the play-by-play going on back at the studio, which is top drawer there. But anyway.
Well, I can fill you in a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to get into great details because there was a little bit of a situation happening with some club members that it wasn't a good thing. Like I said, I don't want to get into it because I don't know a lot about it. But
I hadn't heard anything like that, Jeff. So
the place that was, now I don't know if there would have been any better coverage there, but the place that had been picked out to hunt the final cast didn't get to be hunted because of some things that went on, and the guide said he wasn't going to guide the cast. So that wasn't a great thing. So it was kind of a last minute, oh no, what are we going to do here? And Doug Cundiff, which has been a friend of mine as long as I've been coon hunting. His dad was top drawer. His dad is awesome.
Charlie
man.
was a field rep back when I was at UKC.
Yes, and he, so I remember back in the day, Greencastle was basically almost my home club. I only lived about 40 minutes from there. I lived in West Lafayette for all those years, so I'd go to almost all their hunts. And so I met Doug way back then, and so Doug, he's there this weekend, of course, running it, and he kind of got shoved under the bus there. Hey, we need a place to go. So it was a last minute deal. I'm sure it wasn't where they wanted. I know it wasn't the place they wanted to go, but it was a good place. It was hilly, a little hillier than I like, but I'm fat and old.
Yeah, you can get into some hills there west of town, over toward Putmanville, that way.
And that's where we went. I mean, I hunted hills almost every cast. One cast, I guess we didn't, but it was fine. Nothing horrible, and there's plenty of coons. But I think that's what happened. I believe the first place we were going to go probably would have had better reception and everything. But when we got out there, it was just spur of the moment. Great place. It was big country. Great place to hunt the final cast, but they had no kind of cell phone service or anything. So that was bad.
Yeah, the logistics on something like that, and especially in this electronic age, is incredible. We used to, even back in my days at PKC, when we were doing, UKC too, probably, when we were trying to get phone calls back from the final cast, to do the play-by-plays on the computer or on the internet, you could run out of cell phone range, and you'd have dead spots and all this stuff. I mean, the guys sitting back home eating the popcorn, need to understand there's a lot of stuff goes on out there. Well, I think they did a great job, and I don't want to throw shade on it at all. I would just, I guess, like some other of the viewers, they wanted to see a little of the action, but hey.
I do know that Clayton Stark was with us on the final cast, and he videoed a lot of it, and it will be on it will be on his YouTube. I think next weekend, he told me. So that I'm looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Clayton does a great job.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you how oblivious I was to all this. I mean, I'm focused on what I'm doing this whole cast,
Sure.
trying to stay focused on my dog. I had no clue. I thought the whole time it was live video. And come to find out it wasn't anyway. So,
Oh, well.
I mean, I probably would. I guess I wouldn't have done anything different than I did, but I really thought that that it was a live video. I think I might have cussed one time, said something. I'm like, oh, I forgot we're on live video here. And then a little bit later, they said we're not live anyway. Don't worry. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, were you trying to upstage your buddy there, your owner there, Strickland?
Oh,
yeah. He's a Final Four video star. You know, he's done a lot of.
Yeah, his this last year has been he's been on a roll for sure. I told him, I said, it's about time that you got to sit back and watch me win something again.
That's right. Exactly. Well, I wanted to talk about, before we get into, first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time, because I know you have to be pounded with all this in the aftermath. Today is just one day after you got back home, I'm sure. Did you get home Sunday?
Yeah, I actually only live about 2 hours and 25 minutes from Greencastle.
Okay. Yeah.
Not bad at all. So, you know, I didn't get back to the motel probably till it was probably 6 o'clock in the morning. I slept in, and I was back up and home, and so yeah, it's you know, it's not a bad thing. I'm not complaining at all. It's been absolutely unbelievable the response I had from this. I mean, it's cool. I mean, my phone has been absolute nonstop, and it's I mean, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It's it feels good to do it again. It's been a while since I had a big one.
Well, you know, I posted up on, not trying to take any credit here at all, but I posted up, I think it was on Friday. I said, gone to the Dogs podcast picks Jeff Ricklefs and Hobo to win the TOC.
Absolutely.
But I just had a feeling, man. I just had a feeling this was your time, brother. And then,
well, I appreciate the feeling, and I hope you have a lot more of the feeling.
Well, I'm sure that was all I could do was root for you. But, you know, looking at, well, before I get in, I keep trying to jump ahead of myself. I want to talk about the hunt a little bit, not ask you to recap every cast particularly unless you want to, but you know, there was talk around that you kind of been in a slump for a while with Hobo, or the wins hadn't been coming maybe as quickly as you wanted. What was going on with that? Do you have any?
Absolutely. So like I mentioned in our podcast last year, this dog is, you know, one of my favorites I've ever had. We got him when he was young, and I went to winning pretty steady with him right off the bat. Really excited about him. Well, you know, I don't know if this had anything to do with it or not. But got him in at the World Hunt. Didn't get any farther than the double cast win. But then, starting in November, I went to Oklahoma to a big 3-night hunt. And the dog just wasn't, I mean, this dog is always so competitive that you're always in the game. You don't win all the time, but you're always right there and feel like you have a chance. And those 3 nights, it was like he wasn't even out there. It's like, but he acted okay. I mean, around the motel and around you, and I just knew something wasn't right. And so immediately I went to my vet, a very good friend of mine. I had an 85-year-old man tell me when I was in my teens that, hey, dogs can't talk. If you got a good dog, they'll have bad nights. But if they all of a sudden start looking bad and stay that way, it's probably health, and they can't tell you that. So I've always remembered that. So I went to my vet, and sure enough, he had some, we really don't know what caused it. It wasn't really a UTI, but he had some stuff in his urine. I don't even remember exactly what he called it, some plankton or something. I don't know. And
protein in his urine.
Yeah, something like, I'm not even sure if it's protein. It was a weird name, but he showed me on the scope, you know, what it was. And he told me that he's not sure why he had it, but, in some infection. And so, and he said, And he drank all the time out in Oklahoma at that hunt. I mean, he drank just like normal, but he said he was dehydrated as he's ever seen a dog. So,
wow.
put him on some antibiotics. He gave him a shot, put him on some antibiotics. He made me feed him. It's some kind of special dog food. I don't even remember what it was, but it was like a 20-pound bag. And he said, take him off of what you're feeding him now, feed him this. And that was to clear those bars up, whatever was in his urine, and put him on the antibiotics and everything. And so we laid him up for, I don't remember that. So that was at the time I laid him up like 2 weeks. That was the time that I took Paige and hunted at the truck hunt for John and got her in. And then John went on and win the truck with her. So that's Hobo was down is why I didn't have him there. So now we're going to get to the point. So after that, he started, I mean, I noticed, I thought he's looking good again. Well, then all of a sudden it was like, boom, another notch better. I'm like, okay, now he's back to normal. And he was completely back to normal. But I'm going to tell you something. I went to a bunch of hunts in January and February. I couldn't win. And the dog looked great. I mean, it's just like the dog had a black cowl over his head. I had a black cloud, whatever. We couldn't win. If there was a chance to get beat by a quarter or a chance to get beat on a tiebreaker, it happened. I mean, we were in a horrible
snake bit, as we say.
Snake bit big time. And I can't tell you how many casts, but I'm going to say, I was joking around, said 30 casts in a row I lost, but let me back up a little bit because I did. So after the Oklahoma deal, I did. Randy Morgan, Scott Engel have a awesome invitational hunt every year in December, and they it's at a big deer club, and it's a really nice place and it's fun. 3-night hunt, $6,500 or $7,500 entry fee. So I did win there on Friday night. I got in and we hunted it off and I won it. So I picked up a $20,000 win there. So I knew
that's one I had forgotten about. Yeah, absolutely.
I knew he was healthy, felt good, looked good. So then that was December. So then January, February, I just went on a horrible losing streak and I was just disgusted. I really was. And I mean, John had not hunted a lot with Hobo, but this winter there in January and February, we met a lot down in Georgia at his mom and dad and the stepdads. And we hunted. I stayed down there 3 weeks at different places and hunted all these hunts. And me and John were hunting. He's like, Jeff, he said, that's a good one. He said, I didn't realize how good he was. I said, well, why do you think I love this dog? He said, yeah. He said, he's a good one. I'm not sure what's going on, why we can't win. And we're like, we don't know what's going on. And it kept on. And it got to the point we were going to do something different. Not sell the dog. I mean, John said, we're not selling the dog. We had some people try to buy him, but we're going to break something up. We were going to maybe switch, John take him, me take something else, just to see what was going on. And we had made a date, like if something didn't change by June 1st, we were going to do some swapping around. So went to the zone hunts for the Tournament of Champions and he looked there again Friday night, looked great, got beat by a quarter. I mean, I'm snake bit. Well, then Saturday night we go out there and mine trees 4 coons before anything makes a tree. I score 8 1/4 and I'm like, okay, maybe we got this monkey off our back. And that got us through the Tournament of Champions. And the next week was a super stakes, won several cast outs of super stakes. So things started looking a little better. And then this happened this week. So maybe we've completely slung that big gorilla off our back here.
Well, I tell you what, if you look at it and you look at his performance, and I did a little show prep here before I called you, Jeff, but, the dog scored 1,575 plus points in 4 casts out there last weekend.
Really?
Yeah. He won on Thursday night. He scored 375 and won his cast. His opposition had in the cast 175, 150, and 175 minus.
Right.
Okay. So that was his Thursday night cast win. Then you went to Friday, right? And then that was when the top 24, I guess, hunted. And he scored 375 again. and his opposition had 175, and then 2 dogs had 0 each.
Right.
And then on Saturday, the first cast, that's when the Joe dog, no, not the Joe, what was the dog?
BTO.
BTO dog.
Right.
You jumped out ahead there. I think you had something like 3 something, and he had some minus, and he withdrew with like 40 minutes left, right?
Yeah. 7 minutes left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Hobo scored 400 that night.
Right.
And then here the final cast, which was just lights out, dominated that one, scored 425. The blue dog had 50 plus, and the Joe dog had 25 minus. So, I mean, dominance. There's no other way you can say it, but he dominated those 4 casts. So,
yeah, you're right. When you look at it that way, I mean, it's like, but trust me, when a couple of those casts weren't as easy as it looked on the card. Like the final cast, there were some things happen. Like, I guess maybe I was just so focused and everything, but that things could have been way different, but they weren't. I mean, it's just the way, I guess you're just worried. You're not worried, but thinking of every scenario, what could happen. And of course, the best scenario happened. I mean, but that's this dog. This dog, he just, when he trees, he has coons. I mean, that is such, I've always said that is the main ingredient for the win is having his coons. And that, it was kind of funny. The one judge judged me like 2 or 3 casts, Jeremy Cox, great, good guy. And I heard him talking to Clayton Stark after we pulled off my last tree. The hunt was over and they were Clayton was taking some pictures with me and everything. And I heard Jeremy say, man, this dog, he said, he didn't think I could hear him. He's like, this dog's been impressive. He said, I think this dog's had a coon every single tree he's made this week. And I said, hey, I said, I just heard that. And I said, you know what? I really hadn't even thought about it, but you're exactly right. He was 100% for this week. Every tree made it.
Think about it in this world we live in, and I think the pendulum has kind of swung back. There were a few years there that the Walker dogs were getting a lot of heat for slick trees, a lot of heat. But I think that pendulum is swinging back the other way. Don't you, Jeff? Do you?
We have this talk all the time amongst hunters, and there is no doubt in my mind, Steve Fielder, 100%. I don't care what anybody else says. These dogs nowadays are so much better than the dogs of the old. I mean, these guys say, "Oh, these dogs nowadays, they don't hold up to the back in the old days dogs." Baloney. Then you hunt these big hunts that we hunt. I'm not bragging that we get to hunt all these big hunts, but when you go to a $4,000 or $5,000 entry, $7,500 entry, or get to the point where we were at later on in the TOC, where you're hunting against dominant dogs, buddy, you make one mistake, you get out of your, like, when you're supposed to be treed over and have a coon and you're not, and this dog is, ahead of you, you're beat. These dogs have coons these days. I mean, no, I'm not saying all of them. Sure, there's some dogs that slick tree, but I'm telling you, you go to these bigger hunts and hunt against these guys that are out here doing it every weekend, you better have your A game, or any dog out there is going to win. It's unbelievable. So yes, to answer your question, 1,000% they have come around.
Yeah, really. Well, I noticed that. I mean, they don't give you a running total. I mean, plus and minus score on these results that we see on the internet, but he didn't score any minus, did he?
No, that score you got right there, that is it. There was no circle, no minus, period.
That's amazing.
It really is now.
That's amazing. Well, Jeff, this is something I'll throw in there, and it's probably a little sidestep from what we're talking about, but overall, looking at the overall picture on this dog, I'm an old school hound guy. I grew up with hounds. I've been looking at hound eyes since I was knee high to a grasshopper. I look at this dog's eyes and somebody's home. The dog, I looked at some of the video that's on the UKC Coonhound Facebook page, and
Mhm.
the interviews that you did prior to, the finals and all that. I like the dog. I mean, he's got a beautiful head, and he looks at you like, man, I know what's going on here. I'm not worried. I'm not excited. I'm not
Fair.
hyper. I'm just,
No,
I get it.
absolutely one of the most even keel, um, just smart, even keel, not. And I'll tell you what, really, if you hunt with this dog a lot and you're around him a lot like me, I don't know if I've ever seen a dog. I mean, I'm sure there's been some close, but I don't know if there's ever been a dog that I've hunted that lives, breathes, eats, smells, tunes hunting more than him. That's all he wants to do. And you can, you're walking around in the evenings before the hunts. I always take him a big walk to try to get him to clean out and everything. He's just as calm as a cucumber, and everything's fine. But I promise you, when you pull him out of that truck, he is got the biggest heart I've ever seen in any dog in my life. I think you could cut his legs off and he's going to try to go. He's only 3 years old. That's
Yeah.
another thing too. But
Oh yeah.
I've never seen this dog tired. I mean, when we pulled him off that last tree, walking out to the road for the UKC guys to get us, he winded a couple coons and was wanting to go again. And it's 5 o'clock in the morning, So he's got heart.
Oh, you gotta admire their heart. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And to think that he's been hunted there, four casts in a row.
Yeah. Sure.
And well, that's just awesome, man. What about one of these casts, or any one or two or three or all of them, that kind of sticks out to you? Some situations that happen, or where you had to kind of get up on your handler horse a little bit, or
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I was going to go back to it. There was the very first cast too. I was treed again just to go into a little more about how many coons or how accurate he was.
Yeah.
First round on Thursday night, great cast. 14 minutes left. I'm treed again, 0.95 through the hills. Cody Carter's judging and guiding, and the other guys are like, they really can't beat me. And they're like, no, we're done. We don't want to walk 0.95 to him. And because we know he's probably got a coon anyway. And he did. I was just going to let you know. So we drove around. So that was one coon I didn't get to score on. So that was another tree he had a coon on. But to answer your question on which cast, there is one. The Friday night cast was definitely the probably the most difficult or exciting. I had Steve Basham was in the cast with a whiskey dog. And I'm sorry, the other two guys I absolutely do not know. I've never met him before.
Okay. They were you remember the dogs? You did. You had the Bart's High Dollar Whiskey dog, a Walker dog, 4-year-old dog, Bruce Bart's, and Stephen Basham, right?
Yep. Right.
Okay. And then you had the Nite Champion Licking River Josie Wells.
Yep.
Larry Bourbon and Kyle Gunnels and Dustin James, all from St. Clair, Missouri. Larry Bourbon was handling.
Yep.
And then you had Lamont's Blue Dream, a blue tick. 3-year-old male Aaron Lamons, I guess that is, or Layman's, I'm not sure. Stephen Powers, also co-owner, and this Aaron Layman's was the handler. So that's who you had on Friday night. Mm-hmm.
I felt bad because I did not know the other two gentlemen, but I will say one thing: they were great guys, super nice. I know Steve Basham very well, so. Jeremy Cox was the judge. It's kind of strange. While we were at the club there at Greencastle at the venue, waiting to go. We had a time set to go. Just out of the blue, they weren't calling for anything. A pretty bad thunderstorm come in. It was rocking now. Lightning, thunder, pouring down the rain. Mm-hmm. So, well, I was sitting in the truck and I hadn't changed into my hunting clothes yet. So it finally let up enough where I grabbed my hunting clothes and ran in the building to change. And there was a couple guys standing there in the cast and the judge. And I'm like, hey, I said, I wouldn't get in a hurry. I said, I looked at it. It's supposed to be out of here by, 9:30, 10 o'clock. And they're like, yeah, we don't want to hunt in it either. So we hung out a long time, and then it finally let up enough. And we had an older gentleman that was going to guide us. And he was kind of getting a little antsy, but about wanting to go, but we finally got to go. And I noticed on the way out there, it was very, very, very warm, steam rolling off the ground. And I checked the rain gauge on my phone. They had got 7/10, 3/4 of an inch of rain.
Wow.
I'm like, these coons probably aren't going to move.
Yeah, it's going to be tough tracking if they are moving. Yeah.
I mean, the steam was rolling. So that's exactly what happened. But we cut loose and we just got scattered. It was unbelievable how bad we got scattered. And I was fortunate enough. Hobo's not a great strike dog. He's very, very, very honest and most of the time middle of the road. But I ended up getting the first strike, and then the blue dog struck second, and then Steve Basham with whiskey third. And we all went straight ahead. Well, the little female dropped back behind us across the road in another woods. Well, she struck behind us, and God almighty, we got scattered. And Whiskey was the first one to get treed. He's 0.7, whatever. He's 3/4 of a mile. And about that time, the female comes treed behind us, but you could barely hear her. So we were walking down the road to go around to Whiskey. Well, then mine had been in this woods trailing, old bad track. He couldn't do nothing with it. And this is something we've worked on his whole life. And he dropped it like he's supposed to, and he got on in there. Well, then the blue tick comes treed in the middle woods. So we got a dog behind us, a dog in the middle, and Whiskey's treed across the next road. So we're scattered everywhere. I'm thinking, man, mine's not even treed yet. And by the time, if mine gets treed, with the no leash lock, it's a different game. You got to think of it way different, And so I'm thinking, well, Steve's got a coon here. He's going to have another hour and a half to tree another coon while I'm sitting over here waiting for him to even score me. So I was it didn't look like it was going to be a good situation. And on the way to Whiskey, mine did get treed, past him to the left over here. So as we're going around there, Judge like, you can go ahead and go handle yours. And I said, listen, I'm not going to let mine sit there and tree for over an hour. I said, I don't want him to get hoarse. If I happen to win, I want to save him. So he said, that's fine. I know right where you're at. I said, well, I'll pull him back. I said, when I see you come, I'll turn my light on. So all that happened. And I knew Steve had to have a coon because they didn't shine but a second and they were off. Well, then they weren't gone long, and Steve's dog struck again right there, pretty close to me, and didn't take that dog long, and he was treed again. So they were gone and gone and gone. I'm thinking I'm probably not even going to get to cut back loose. And I'm like, and not only that, when I got to my dog and handled him, I could see it was a den. It was a hollow den, a snag den at that. I'm like, oh, this definitely not working out. So I sat there and I sat there and I sat there. I pulled him back and I sat on the edge of the field. Pretty soon here they come, and I looked, and there was 37 minutes left. And I'm like, well, that's a good thing. And I just got to be able to score this coon. I've got to score this coon or I'm done. And it worked out. It's unbelievable. Here's the lucky, when you win a big hunt, I've always said it, everybody knows it, you got to have a good break.
Yep. Well,
they get there, and he said, what tree is it? I said, it's this one right here. And it's a snagged in, and they're at the top about 2 foot above your head. There's, the top of it, it's broke off. There's a hole there. And then if you come down about head high and maybe a little lower than that, there's a couple holes about the size of a pop can. And you could tell it's just completely hollow. So I had me a good limb ready. And I said, watch them holes. And when I hit that tree a couple times, when I hit it with that baseball bat, you could hear the kittens squalling down in the bottom. I said, you hear those kittens? He said, yep. I said, well, watch them holes. And I hit again, and here come the mama coon up. So that was a lucky break right there. I mean, we got to score that coon. So I'm like, okay, I got a chance. We pulled off, and
now you're setting 2 1/4 there.
2 1/4.
Okay, and he's setting 175.
175. The female set at 150, and I forgot the blue tick hat was actually treated in the ground, so he had 0. But now Steve's treed again, and they said that the female was treed again. So now they're both treed again, and I'm on the lead, but I no leash lock, which is a great thing. I'm getting ready to cut back loose. I don't remember how much time's left, but it's like 20 minutes or 25 minutes. So I'm thinking all I got to do is get treated again. I should be okay. Well, I cut him and we go to walking towards that female. And there's a road bed that, like our old railroad track, they tore the tracks out. So it's like an old road bed. And we got up on that road bed. We're walking down it. And I look at my Garmin, and that's kind of the way we sent Hobo. And Hobo, just like 100 yards ahead of us, had just crossed that old road bed. I said, we're getting ready to walk up on mine, but I said, don't worry about it. I said, you ain't going to bother him. And he had already crossed the road bed. And I mean, as soon as we walk by him, he's just 50 yards over here to the left. He strikes. And he, in there about 250 yards. I mean, just drives it in there. Wham, comes Treed. And I'm grinning. And I'm like, and that boy hunting the blue tick, he looks at me, he said, that was impressive. Well, he's got to have him on the outside is all I can say. I said, you know how this time of year with the sows are, right? Might have been a mama going home, but I said, I feel pretty good about it. And we walked on, and my time run out on the tree, and I went to mine, and they went and scored the female, and they had to walk back right by me. The hunt's over now, and they had to walk by me to go to Steve. And so they went ahead and scored me because if I had a coon, Steve couldn't win, and I had a big old fat one laying up there. And winner, but that was that cast was not as easy as it looked. Steve,
I see that.
Steve had another coon over there, so yes, I mean those scorecards don't always tell the whole story.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. But
yeah,
that used to fascinate me because there were two guys that I remember always at the tennis center in Aurora at the PKC World Hunt that poured over every single scorecard. Can you name those two guys?
Was it J.C. Ellis?
That's one.
Strickland?
Nope.
I'm not sure.
Big Don.
Oh, Don Gosowski?
Yeah. They poured over every single score on that table. At PKC, they kept the final four back, and then you could look at the cards and stuff.
Absolutely.
But, that was different than UKC where everything had to be confidential, but
right.
But yeah, those guys always put them. No, they don't tell the tale. That's for sure. And when you write an article on dogs, as I've done several times over the years, you got to get to the guy, just like just now, and get the story. Because
absolutely
right. Well, you want to jump on forward to the final cast, or was there anything that happened in the round 3 cast?
Yeah, that was a kind of a bad deal. Jacob and Jack Bingham from Iowa are very good friends of mine. Super people.
I remember Jack always as a red bone man, but he's kind of switched over to walkers here.
I'm sure he's probably still got a young dog around there, a red dog, but that little female, I think they retired her and sent her to a guy just to pleasure hunt now. But yeah, so he's pretty much just hunting walker dogs. But I'd never drawn BTO before. Of course, I got a lot of friends that live in Iowa, buddies, and so I did a little checking on him when I drew him, and then guys that drew him the night before, and I knew he was a good one. And heads up, or some people don't like heads up. Heads up is my absolute favorite cast to hunt. I don't know why. It stems back from the Hardwood Henry days and going to the PKC Nationals. You always had heads up casts, and I kind of kept track of all that stuff back in the day, and I know it's I don't know how many it was, but with Hardwood Henry, I was undefeated in heads up cast. He won every one of them I had him in. So that's probably why they're one of my favorites, but some people just don't like them. And sometimes they say it's harder for dogs to get separated from each other and this and that. If you make a mistake, if you do make a mistake, it's harder. There's no cushioning in between. There's no other dogs to help cushion,
Yeah. Well, I heard Stretch and Burkholder talk in there on the YouTube footage and saying that it was hectic. It was more hectic, more intense.
Right.
And I think I would agree with that too.
Yeah, I would agree too. It just, the way this one worked out the other night, it was a bad deal for them and a really good deal for me. We kind of got a screwed up little bit of a screwed up deal with the guy. It wasn't his fault. He was taking us to a big section, and actually on the way, he got a call that they were in there planting where we were going to hunt, and it was going to be hard to hear. So he told us, he said, you probably don't want to go there with tractors running and everything. We're like, no. So he took us to another spot, and it was still daylight. And we parked and we got out. I'm like, is this where we're hunting? He's like, yeah. He said, I had a cast in here last night. It was fine. But it was like 600 yards from the edge of Greencastle, the town, its limits, And I'm like, if we go, yeah, we're not going to hunt that way, but know about these dogs. They're not going to go the way they send you most of the time, or the way you send them.
Yeah.
So super good boy, young guy. He's like, well, I got another spot. And he said, let me show you. I had my Garmin out with the bird's eye, and we were looking over the area. And he said, give me your Garmin, and I'll let me pull it up the other spot. So he pulled it up, and me and Jacob stood there and looked at it on the bird's eye. And we're like, yeah, we'd probably better go there. So we left and went there. It's only about 10 minutes away, and it was a really good spot. We walked down a little fence road, got on a river. It's about 150 yards wide, timber beside the river. And then it ran down there a quarter or so, and then it dumped into big timber. So it was a really good looking spot. We walked down there and cut loose along that river, and BTO struck right after the minute. Mine strikes a little bit right-handed and just made a couple kind of funny barks, actually. And I strike for 75. Well, I think mine just barked crossing that water, because he crossed that river and then shot across the big field to the big timber over there, about 600 yards. And when he hit that big timber, BTO's just kind of hammering around right here on the river. He's trying to figure this track out. And mine, as soon as he got to that big woods, he just made a few barks over there and come treed. So I let him settle a little bit and treat him. And we're walking that way. We had to cross that river, which he said it was crossable, and it was. We get over there, and BTO had worked around a little bit there. And I was on the way to Hobo, BTO comes treed. So we get to me. I got a coon. Pull him off, cut him. Beautiful just a little creek in there. I cut him right down that creek. And before we get halfway back to BTO, mine's setting through their 800 again treed. And we get to BTO, and he's right on the edge of that river. No, it's a little fence road come off the river, but he's on a tree that's about 2 foot from a good den, but it don't touch. I mean, they do not touch. We walked around at the backup judge, Jacob, looked every nook and cranny, and both the judges are like, well, we don't see where it touches. They felt bad for him, but Jacob's a good boy, and he's like, they don't touch. I agree. So minus it, that they said we're minus it. And he was fine with it. So that was kind of a real rough start for him, and he cuts him back loose, but we're halfway across that field, and he said, mine's kind of out of gas. He said he's in that woods kind of headed towards yours. He said, just slinking around through there. He said, I'm going to tell you something, Jeff. If yours has got another coon, I'm going to be 625 points behind. He said, I'm going to be done. So we get into mine, and I got a coon, and that's it. 47 minutes left to quit.
I was watching the coverage when when Alan reported that from the woods. Yeah, that's a tough break for him, but we've all been there, but boy, treeing those coons, having those eyes, that's
that's another show of sportsmanship that a lot of people, don't realize or don't understand. I mean, a lot of people do, but some people would have just kept on out there. But he said, Jeff, there's no way I can beat you. There's no sense in keeping that dog out here. He said, that way, he'll get a little more rest. And we won't, who knows? The dog could have got somewhere where I had to leave him treed for 2 hours before I could catch him or something. So it was a really true show of sportsmanship for Jacob to do that. So.
Well, I don't know Jacob, but I know his daddy, and I think that's just a good example right there of a coon hunter training up his kids to be good coon hunters.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know Jay. It's just a heritage factor there that exists, with that. Well, and we could get into another story that way too. We get into this final cast now. Okay, I want to ask you, how will you feel? Or you're in the final now?
Yeah.
You don't know what your dog is you're gonna hunt against yet, do you?
No, not yet. I got a report. I had a friend of mine that was texting me, and he kind of gave me a report on what the other two cats were doing, but
Mm-hmm.
still didn't know for sure until I got back to the club, and they kind of, I was the first one back, of course, because we couldn't,
Oh yeah.
cast didn't last very long, but yeah. So then I got back, and they wanted me to bring my dog up, and they did a little interview, and I walked him around a little bit, gave him some water, and put him back in the truck and let him rest. And I went in to wait on him. And at that point, I was, of course, I was very relieved and excited that I was in the final three. But I was still focused on, because, when I get to that point, I've always been, yes, the money's good. Second, third money's still good. But at that point, I was definitely focused on the win.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But there was something going on that was bothering me, and it was the weather. I was very concerned about the weather. I was watching it, and John laughs at me and he gets annoyed at me because I'm a weather watcher at these hunts. And, sometimes the weathermen are wrong. Imagine that.
I always say they get paid to lie,
Absolutely. A lot of times I'll tell John, don't look at the weather at all. And I'll tell him, hey, this is about ready to get a storm. We're about ready to get this. We're going to do this. And then it won't. And if it don't happen, he's like, I told you it wasn't going to do this or that. But so I was watching that weather, and I'm telling you what, there was a line of yellow and red and green coming a wall, and it said it was going to hit about 2 to 2:15. And I was, and then we had that little issue going on I told you about with the guide that wasn't going to guide. Yeah. So it took a little longer to get us out of there. And I was very concerned about it. I was talking to my wife on the way to the woods, and I was telling her about it. And I said, I can't believe it's come down to where three of us are hunting for a prize of $100,000. And it's going to come down to the weather determining on what's going to happen. I said, this just aggravates me. And just to finish that weather deal up, it never happened. I couldn't believe it. It broke up. It was just like it was meant to be for us. It was breaking up as it got just a few miles from there. It just kept showing up breaking up. So that was a fantastic thing. It did get a little windy. We had just got sprinkled on really on the last walk to Hobo's last tree. But yeah, thank God that weather didn't come in, because it looked bad.
Well, I've been debating with myself to whether I should mention this or not, since back at the early part of our discussion here today, when you talked about this situation with the final cast, and where there was a little bit of probably a little push and shove among club members as to who got the guide, the final cast and all. That is deja vu all over again for me with Greencastle, because the last year that I was at UKC, we had a situation very similar to that, where we had our guides and judges all selected for the final cast, and some of the local other clubs weren't happy. And we ended up, having to make some changes. And also maybe it's a Greencastle thing. I don't know. But, and that was the one that coon hunters will remember. It got worse than that, because that was the year Dick Brothers won with his female, and we ended up, have a controversy because of that. And of course, Dick was totally vindicated and won the cast as originally determined and all that. But I don't know, maybe there's a ghost of an old coon hunter or something that got messed over at Autumn Oaks years ago or
it
something.
Might have been,
and he's out there messing around with things. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a shame because I'll tell you, some of them guys down there, Cody Carter, Tyler Pettit, Doug Cundiff, some of the best guys in the world. And
always have been. Yeah,
that Cody Carter and Tyler Pettit both are true coon hunters that know dogs. And Cody jumped me down there on Thursday night and guided, and they spend a lot of time in the woods. So I have no clue what happened and why it happened.
Yeah. but
I'm sure they'll get it all worked
sure.
out.
Well, we don't want to
They're good
beat that
people.
horse to death, but
No.
but that's to me that was just interesting, And well, okay, so you find out that you're going to be hunting against a blue dog, and that's big news to a lot of people. There's a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
blue tick fans around the country, and
You
I'm
bet.
sure a lot of them were not rooting for Jeff Ricklefs and
No.
Hobo. And that's kind of cool. I don't really break down their cast or how they got there or whatever. But then, as we mentioned before, when we were talking about Jacob Bingham, we got Casey Stallard in the Final Four. And of
Great.
course, Jeff has been around forever, his dad.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yes.
judged Jeff and old Lefty that won the national championship.
Yeah.
Slam it, Lefty. Did you ever hunt against him?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, how did that go? Is that unfolded and you're sitting in the clubhouse finding out who you're hunting against and all? What are you thinking?
Yeah, that actually that cast with the top 6 there where Casey Stallard and Casey Maggard drew each other.
Mm-hmm.
They both them guys I know very, very well. I have hunted with both dogs several times, and I knew both dogs were very nice hounds. So that was I knew nothing about either one of the other dogs, the blue dog, Crowder, or the Preacher Man dog, the X-bred dog. I never hunted with them. I never heard anything about them, but I knew the other two. Either one of those were going to be absolute stiff competition. Very good friends of mine too. So I knew it was going to be fun, along with a tough cast. Like I said, I didn't know the Travis Dill, didn't know him at all. I actually had drawn his son a couple of years ago out in Missouri, and he was a good boy. So yeah, it was exciting when they announced who it was going to be, and I thought I've hunted with Joe, Casey's dog, many times. I've drawn him since he was a puppy, and that is a coon treeing rascal right there. I mean,
I've heard he's accurate.
He has them.
Mm-hmm.
He has them when he trees, and I knew that was going to be tough.
Well, can you kind of walk us through that cast?
Absolutely, it was tough. It was coon. I don't know if them coons thought that storm was coming or not, but they weren't moving. The wind picked up. Like I said, Doug had to take us to a spot that, I mean, it's a good spot. He said we weren't going to be very happy because of the hills, but you can't always hunt just flat pancake stuff. And I'm fine with that. I'm not a big fan of hills, but hey, what we were hunting for, as long as it was safe hunting and big hunting, and there was some coons, that's all you can ask for. And
well, I want to interrupt you here a little bit. You're 60 years old now?
Yeah.
That surprised me. I heard that the other day, and I said, no, Jeff can't be 60 yet.
Yeah, February 20th. Yeah.
And you had back surgery.
Yep, a year and a month ago, March 21st last year.
And you were actually, obviously, not able to hunt during that.
Right. Yeah, it was like about 8 weeks where it wasn't that long before I pleasure hunted. It was just a couple of weeks before I went out pleasure hunted some, just rode the Ranger around and hunted easy spots. But it was 6, 7, 8 weeks before I could go back to the competition hunt,
Now you're here facing your 4th cast in 3 days.
Yeah, and let me give you a little bit of feedback or a little bit of news on this. I mean, it's crazy, but so we got back from our little vacation, me and Gwen in Florida, and I said, I've had enough of this. I'd gained 4 or 5 pounds in Florida. We ate like pigs, and I kind of gained like 20 pounds over the last year and a half, just gradually a little bit. I said, I've had enough. And a good friend of mine had started this some kind of crazy diet, and he had lost 42 pounds in 2 months. I said, I'm doing it. I said, I don't care. I'm doing it. And I'm getting on this treadmill every day or outside every day. Now, this started when we got back March 4th from about a week after that, if we got back from Florida. So I said, I'm doing the treadmill or outside walking every day, and I'm going to do this diet no matter what. So come now, I've lost 22 pounds, and this diet has cut out every ounce of sugar. I think that's one big thing. I have more energy right now than I have had since I was 30 years old. I feel unbelievable. So to answer your question, I'm going into the fourth cast, and I feel like I haven't even hunted a cast. I mean, it's unbelievable how I felt.
How many Red Bulls did you have before?
Zero. I've honestly, I've never drank an energy drink
I
in my
have
life.
not either. I have
not
not
one.
I couldn't
But
resist.
on this diet, you drink water. That's it. You can't drink anything else but water. And I think that's a big thing. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get into all that. But yes, so going into this, yes, I'm still very slow crawling up those hills, but I can do it. In flat country, I can walk with anybody. And I felt good going into this cast. You know, probably some of that's you're excited about being in the final three, I'm sure. But so we get there and the wind's picked up and we're in these big hills. We know it's probably gonna be tough to hear, and we cut them. And we stand there and we stand there and we stand there. 10 minutes goes by. Nobody's struck. That is unheard of in Indiana. Now, I can tell on the Garmin mine struck, and I thought maybe I could hear him, but there's no way I was going to ask the judge if he heard him, because I mean it was just a maybe. And Casey, all of a sudden, he's like, "Listen, right in here, you got me." Judge's like, "Nope, you got me, Judge. You got me, Judge. You got me, Judge." I still think I've heard mine bark a couple times, but so Casey strikes. The judge finally says, "I hear one." He strikes. Now I heard mine for sure. Mine's a little left-handed. You got me? He said, "I got another one left-handed, so strike me." So we stand there. Now the blue dog straight ahead a little bit to the right. You can hear him way better than ours. He strikes and he just comes treat. So we stand there a minute and we start easing that way, and everybody knows Joe's pretty much silent. So he was treed, but the blue dog got treed in first. And as we're walking, Casey trees Joe. Backup judge goes with Casey, and we go to the blue dog. He's down in the purdy part of this hunt. I mean, a beautiful. You get down on the creek, and Doug had told us before we left it. Once we got out of those side hills there, and we get down the bottom, it's pretty. And when you get down there, now we're out of the wind, and we get down there, and the blue dog's got a coon. And I've been watching mine on the Garmin. He's on an old bad track, and I'm thinking he ain't done this all week. He don't need to do this now. You know, I'm like, he's been really treating them coons pretty quick. So I'm thinking, you need to get treed. And well, the Travis with the blue dog, he decides he's going to keep his on the leash. And I didn't understand that. I'm thinking, I want mine to tree as many as he can, as fast as he can. But on the way to Joe, he was beside me. I didn't ask, but he just kind of said, "Hey," he said, "I didn't really want to turn mine loose back through there." He said, "Because I know yours is on the other side of Joe. And if we have to go to yours, and mine's the opposite way, I might not ever hear him again." So it kind of made sense, but I would have been flipping loose. So me in my head, we're walking to Joe, and he's got first strike. I'm thinking immediately, well, this means I'm going to have to tree two now for sure to win, because Joe's always got him. I mean, he's always got him. We get to him, he's on a small tree, and he's slick. Wow. I'm thinking, you know, I've drawn the dog I don't know how many times through the years. I've never seen him make a slick. And I mean, it doesn't take but a minute to see he don't have him. And Casey walks around there a little bit, but he don't look long, because it's pretty obvious. And you could tell he's pretty dejected at that point. When now he's first on a slick.
Why do dogs do that to us?
You tell me. Oh, yeah, right.
Somehow I got to think they know. You remember that time when you...
Remember when you whipped me for that? Doing that one thing?
That's right.
But so long story short, actually, by the time we get to Joe, I've looked at my Garmin again. Mine skipped off that old bad track. Now he's on in there about 800 yards. I can tell he's on another track, but I can't hear him. And so we pull Joe off. We got them both on the leash. We walk out there just a little bit and stop to put the time on me. And you hear mine open in there. So they cut. Mine makes about two more barks and comes treed. So obviously that was a lot better track. And he's, like I said, he's 850, 900 yards in there. And whew, we had to walk some hills getting to him. I was sure glad when we got to him. But we get to him, and he's got a coon. And find him immediately and pull mine off. And nothing else is struck yet. I mean, and the blue dog had walked with us some. Now I don't want to make that situation light either on the blue dog. So we had heard Kevin Rash and Strickland are good friends. Kevin had called John in between rounds, and Kevin told John that the dog had ate for 5 days while they were up there. He wouldn't eat, so the dog was getting weak. He was running out of gas, Yeah. And that's a bad thing. Some dogs don't travel
That's
well.
right. Exactly.
But so the dog did walk with us some on the way to my first tree there, and he was gone after we scored my coon. But pull me off, nothing struck. So I'm thinking the whole situation in my head, what I need to do. I get mine cut back loose, and I'm thinking I need to get struck first, because now if I know Casey's is treed somewhere, there's no doubt in my mind his is treed somewhere. I'm thinking if I can get first strike, Casey can tree a coon and tree another coon after that and still not beat me if I can get first strike. And so mine goes about 300 yards. Now Casey's got the judge back here trying to get him to hear his. I'm thinking, come on, Hobo, get struck, get struck. Sure enough, mine's about 350 and mine strikes. Well, as soon as I strike him for 100, the judge says, I got you, Casey, and he strikes and trees. So it worked out just like I wanted it to. So we take off walking. Casey's at like 6/10, and we walk and we walk and we walk. And the blue dog does show up a couple of times walking to Casey. He's pretty much done. And we get now, so I'm thinking all the scenarios in my head. I'm thinking, I hope the weather don't come in, because I've watched mine on the Garmin, and he's kind of he was kind of going parallel hunting about 600-700 yards right-handed of us as we were walking to Casey's, which was perfect. I'll be able to hear him if he strikes. Well, then he made a loop in this field and went back the other way. Now he's going completely opposite of us. And I'm like, now if we walk back and this, we're going to have to start the stationary, or not stationary, but the 6 on me. If we don't hear me, I take a minus, then the blue dog's going to win. You run all those scenarios through your head. And Casey's got a coon. That puts him at 25 minus. And now with the new rule that you can flip at any time, Casey, of course, immediately walks out across the road and cuts his. So now we got to go all the way back to where we heard mine. And we walk back that way. We get right there on that ridge where I struck, and we're standing there. Mine's been treed for about 30 minutes on the way back. And I'm thinking, boy, I just hope I can hear him. That's all I can hope for, And at this point, I'm still winning. But I just, if we don't hear anything else and the 6 gets me, then I'm not going to be winning. So we're standing there, and I can hear him. I mean, it's just, I can, I'm the handler. I've had him for years, or for a long time now, and I can hear him. And I asked the judge, and he said, no, I can't hear him. I asked him 2 or 3 times. No, I can't hear him. And I'm like, you've judged me a couple times. Just remember what he sounds like and listen right through here. I said, you just listen for that rhythm. Pretty soon he points his laser right at him. He says, right there? I said, yes, right there. He says, I got him. So bam, tree me. Well, now the blue dog is open while I'm trying to get this judge way back where we left Casey's dog. So he strikes. So that would have saved me on the 6. But now the blue dog, he's treeing. So, I had to really tree. And I wanted to tree first so we could go to mine. I didn't want to let mine set over there forever and tree while we're scoring the blue dog, So we take off. They send a backup judge to the blue dog, and we walk and we walk and we walk. And we get the hunt runs out. We never did hear Casey's again. And we pop over this ridge, and he's about, 500-600 yards from us. And now you can hear him every breath while we're walking. And we get over there, and I didn't get to hear him run that track or anything, of course, because we were walking. But I thought the way I was watching him on that Garmin, he was going around the edge of that field. And when he got to a certain point, he just zoomed in that woods and come treed. So I had a good feeling about the way I watched him on that Garmin that he probably had a coon. We get in there, and he's on a really nice looking poplar tree, and judge finds him immediately. It was over. So that was an awesome feeling, and then we get a phone call that the blue dog, actually the 2 called him. He took a minus. So I actually didn't even need that coon at the time, but no, it was an awesome feeling.
So you had first on 2 coons.
I had second and first on the
Oh,
first one.
that's
First
right.
and first on the
That's
last.
right. That's where the
Yep.
425 came in. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, okay. So, Jeff, you've hunted a lot of hunts.
Yes, sir.
And you hunted some big ones and little ones, and you and I hunted together a little. Last time I went hunting with you was up in around northern Michigan, somewhere up there one
Yeah.
night. We hunted. I was hunting a little plot female that wouldn't stay treed with anything. You were hunting a
Oh,
dog
yeah.
named Jack or something like that. What was that dog's
Probably.
name?
I remember I was hunting a dog named Jack Mayhem for a while for
That
John.
might have been him.
I
But
won
yeah.
won a PKC Futurity with that dog.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, the point being, you know that you've won $50,000 and the Tournament of Champions title. What you feeling right then? When did it kind of creep over you, so to speak?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about it today that, and I've always been one that I don't get nervous. I mean, I not at all do I get nervous. I mean, even back the very first big hunt, I mean, like big money hunt that I got in the Final Four of would have been the Nationals with Henry. And I remember even back then I wasn't nervous. Now, excited, yeah, but not nervous at all. But I remember walking across. Now, today I was thinking about it. I'm like, that's crazy. I was walking to my dog, not knowing this blue dog left, not knowing anything, what happened back here. But I was completely, calmness was over me completely, because I guess it's just knowing your dog. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind. Now, he could have had a den, but yes, he could have had a slick. But in my mind, I'm like, there's no way this dog's got a slick in here. I was not worried whatsoever. I was already thinking in my head, I've probably won this, because I think this dog's probably got a coon in here, just the way he did things. So it's kind of crazy. I'm surprised I wasn't like more excited, nervous or whatever, walking to him thinking, oh my God, does he got a coon, this or that? But I wasn't. It was calmness, but it was maybe it's more I was tired from walking them hills.
Well, I've been in those hills. One night we were over there. I was judging out of Sullivan, I guess. We went up to Greencastle in Super Stakes time. I was with PKC, and we got over and got in a downpour, the one you were worried about. And those big old raindrops that looked like they weighed 5 pounds each were smacking me right in the eyeballs when we look up trying to shine a tree and in those hills, too.
There's nothing worse than hunting in the rain. I hate it.
I know. Well, I hope, Jeff, as you're talking, that the younger hunters and the newer hunters are listening to what you're saying, listening how you analyze what's going on, how you determine by the way that dog operated, the way he worked that track, the way he ran that track into the woods, whatever. All these things, you're putting all this together into a sight picture that tells you what's going on there. And most of the time, you're going to be right.
Yeah. There's nothing more that aggravates me more than to hear these people nowadays saying, oh, you don't even need to know a dog nowadays. You got the Garmin and this and that. Well, baloney. I mean, yes, maybe you can go out there and hunt one in a cast, but let me tell you something. I've spent so many nights and hours with this dog. He's just 3, but we bought him. He was 16 months old, and I don't care what anybody says. I want to know every single thing that dog does. And yes, I mean, the Garmin's, I hated it when they implemented them. I still think it takes away from the coon hunting sport, because I always felt like it was a team thing. It was a handler and a dog, and it's kind of took a little bit of that out of it. But I mean, I'm used to it now, and of course I use it just like everybody. But
the benefits are so great in knowing where your dog is, especially in these dogs, what they're worth today, and what they're worth in emotions, emotional worth, and all. To know that dog's safe or about to get in trouble,
I agree.
I think that outweighs all that other. But I do agree with you. I mean, I said, there's no way that Garmin can influence the outcome of the hunt. and
Right.
it will, but you got to know how to use it, and you got to
Yeah.
know how to read the data and process
Right.
it and all that, just like you're talking about there,
Right.
by knowing, well, hey, that's awesome. So now, as soon as they congratulate you on that tree, well, at that point, you're the winner after
Yeah.
that second coon, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what do? You call Strickland, or what's
Um,
going on?
it was kind of funny because this is another point I make, and I wish some of these younger guys or even some of these older guys, I don't know. It's all personal preference. But when I get out of my truck before a cast, the first thing I do is shut my phone off. I mean, I do not want that distracting me during a cast.
Right.
If I'm sitting at a tree waiting on somebody to come score me or whatever, I'm bored, I might flip it back on and text somebody, text my wife, text Strickland, whatever. But my phone is off. These guys, some of my buddies will be texting me during a cast, and you wonder why I don't answer. I don't have my phone on. I don't want it on.
Right.
So yeah, we were sitting there, and it was a pretty cool little group. Me and Jeremy Cox, the judge, Clayton Stark, and then Trevor Wade with us. The two backup judges had went to the Blue Dog, so that was like those people were with me, and Trevor Wade's a super person. Clayton Stark, nice guy, and
Absolutely.
so they were
top drawer, both of them.
and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, congratulate me, pat me on the back. Clayton wanted me to get down with Hobo and so he could take some pictures, and he videoed that coon in that tree. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. And he said, "Hey, Jeremy's like, you want me to take a picture with your phone?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." I said, "Oh, it's off." I said, "Here, let me turn it on." I said, "Now, if you've already announced this, when I turn this on, it's going to go bing, 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 I'm sure." But he said, "Well, I don't think they've announced it yet." So I turned it on, and it hadn't been on 10 seconds, and I'm getting ready to hand it to him. My wife texts me, and in capital letters, "Did he have a coon?" She's up watching it, and so I just text her back, "Winner." And so she goes to text. And so, yeah, it was great. So he takes a picture, and then I call Strickland, and he's half asleep.
Well, he's a star, He was on the set with those guys up there. In fact, he was my favorite one. And they're talking about when he started hunting when he was 9 years old.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was so what was funny though is him and Suzanne were at the club, but they had actually went out to the truck. Suzanne was going to take a little nap, and he was listening and watching the commentary out in the truck. But he had fell asleep, and when I called him, he said, "Hey, buddy, what happened then at the end there?" And I'm like, "I had a slick, man." And I said, "I moved to third place." His silence for a minute. He said, "You liar." And I went to whooping, hollering, and told him we won. So,
that's great.
That
is great. Well, you got to have fun, whatever you do,
absolutely.
Jeff. You know what? If it's not fun, why we do it, right?
I'm the biggest cut up out there in the cast. I mean, even in some of these, even in some bigger, the bigger casts and stuff, man, I still like to cut up and have fun. I mean,
keep it light. Yeah. Well, now, have you done a little running total of I know it's different registries and all, but what's your lifetime handler earnings up to now, do you think?
With me, mine in different, oh Lord. Well,
you just added another 50,
Yeah, it's I've tried to over the years try to figure it up. It's over 1 million. I mean, I can't even tell you exactly though. But it's well over $1 million and everything. The with different registries and the invitationals and everything. So yeah,
awesome.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, we used to say we're on the way to being a PKC millionaire. We're paying $80 to win 60.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's a great story. Well, listen, how old was Hobo when you got him?
Yeah, I'm glad you did bring that because I do want to give a little recognition for sure. And I haven't even called Mike Gilbert. Mike Gilbert is the one that raised this dog. And I was going to call him yesterday, but Larry, my phone's been blowing up. So I'm going to call him today. But so I was without a dog. We were looking. a little female I'd been hunting for John, she just wasn't operating right. We decided to do something different. We look. And Josh Watson in Georgia and Shane Stevenson called me and said they were on their way to Gilbert's, and that the Shane Stevenson, he bought a couple dogs off Mike, was really good friends with Mike, and he said, hey, we're going up here to hunt with Mike, and he's got a little dog. And I'd heard of him. He was young, really young, but he actually placed second or third in the Shelburne, Indiana pro hunt the summer before. At 10 months old, he got second or third. At 10 months old in a pro hunt. So, but I'd never really paid attention, what he was, or hadn't really asked about him. So they just were just shooting the shit with me, actually driving up there to go hunt with Mike. And they got to talking about this dog, and they knew I was looking. And Shane said, I got first chance at Hobo. And he says, we're going up here to hunt with him. He said, I really don't need a dog. And Mike called me. Mike's one, when he's done with a pup and it's time to sell one, he's ready to sell it because he's ready to move on.
Yep.
Told Shane, he said, hey, you got first chance at this dog. I'm just telling you, I can't do much else with him. He's pretty much a finished dog. Now he's 15 months old. And Shane's like, yeah, let me think about it. So he called me and teasing me more than anything. And they were laughing at me because I was like, man, let me go look at him. He said, let me think about it. Well, the next day they called me. He said, I told Mike, he said, let you guys come look at him. But if you guys don't buy him, then don't sell him to anybody else. So I called John immediately and I said, hey, let's go look at this dog. I'd looked at a couple other ones. Nothing had caught my eye. And I said, I'd like for you to meet me. It's not that far. And he said, yeah, I'll meet you at Gilbert. So called Gilbert. We set it up. Went down there. He brought Apollo. He was hunting Apollo at the time. And I had a friend of mine, Derek Brewer, was hunting a little dog named Junebug. And he went with us too. So we kind of would have a little cast,
Mm-hmm.
And we actually just cut Hobo loose with Apollo first. We got split up in there, and Hobo had a coon, Apollo had a coon. Long story short, the dog looked fantastic, and 15 months old. And actually, the last we cut loose in the cast situation, Hobo just went out there and treated a coon real quick, cut him off that, and he sunk through that country and was treated again. And we were like, walk back to the truck, and from the truck to where he treed, it wasn't from the tree we cut off, but from the truck, he was a mile or a little more, and you could hear him good. So we, okay, his mouth's good. He's had coons when he trees, this and that. And we were hunting state ground. I mean, it wasn't good hunting, and it was December,
mm-hmm.
and that thing had been pounded to death, So Mike,
and that's not great hunting down there where Mike is
good.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, exactly. So Mike had talked about going to some private land after that. So me and John are in the truck together, and they're driving in another truck, and we're driving around there. And I said, well, Mike talked about taking us to some private land. It'll probably be a little better hunting after we get him off this one. And John looked at me and he said, why? And I'm like, what do you mean, why? He said, well, why do we need to go anywhere else? He said, what else are we going to see? He said, let's just write him a check. So I said, hey, I'm good with that. But, I said, I didn't know if you'd seen enough. I said, we saw him go by himself. We saw him go with other dog, one other dog, three other dogs, everything, So we drove around there, and we got fairly close to him, and we parked, and we take off walking, and we're walking, and Mike looks back, and he looks at me, and he's like, well, where's John? I said, he's writing you a check. And he laughed. He said, oh, okay. So we go in there, and he had another coon. So, got back the truck, and he paid him. And that was, like I said, he's 15 months old. And,
now he's off of Hardiman's jab, right?
No, he is off of Josie
Wales. And Josie's off of jab.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. And then a little bitch named Casey that him and Chuck Cliver had together, and she goes back to the old Frogger dog and Beller's breeding.
Yeah.
On the bottom. So, yeah.
Well, I tell you that Mike has really had success with those dogs, and
great dog.
Chris Hardiman down there, and those, and I've seen some nice pups come out of those dogs.
Absolutely. They if they make it through Mike's program, they're going to be a good one because he's pretty tough on them. I mean, I'm not bad mouthing. He's. I mean, more people probably should be that way because I mean, if they come out of there, they've went through an awesome program because Mike knows how to train a pup. There's no doubt.
Yeah, there's for sure. And I remember Mike back from my earliest PKC days, and he was always a contender, with the dogs he brought to a hunt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jeff, we have been at it almost an hour and 20 minutes, and I didn't mean to keep you that long because I know your phone's been blowing up. But hey, any other reflections on this weekend or nuggets you can share with us?
No, I mean just other than still riding that high. That
man.
It's been a while since I'd been at one big one, so it's great to have that feeling again.
Well, one time way back, I said that on my tombstone, they need to put the words recognition is the name of the game. I've been around this coonhound thing for a long time and I always tried to give recognition to the winners, the ones that did it the right way, the ones that, put in the time, put in the work, and did all that, and to be recognized as the top dog in UKC for this last 2023. Every dog in there had gone out and won at least 5 casts in competition, gone through a region, got there to the finals. You hunt 4 nights, you don't lose a cast, you go all the way to the top of the heap. You got the best UKC coon dog in the United States.
Right.
There's no way to dispute it.
That ran through my mind too after the win that, wow. I think all my friends that I saw at LaGrange, all my that at the zones, then I see all my friends that made it to the top 96 in Greencastle, and all the ones that didn't make it there. And when the smoke cleared, I mean, I was sitting there thinking, wow.
You're standing on the top of the heap, brother.
I mean, I've won this hunt where all these people have been.
That's
right. And I never really reflected back at a hunt like that. But you're right. I have thought that, and it is pretty amazing.
They'll never take it away from you. It's chiseled in stone in the record.
There you go. Absolutely. But
awesome. Well, Jeff, it's always great to talk to you, and I like to talk to your little buddy too, John. There, whenever I get a chance, and just so happy for you guys. This Doug that co-owns, I've met Doug at the hunts. What a nice guy he is. John's partner. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super good guy. I'm getting to know him better and better. When we're in Georgia in the wintertime, spending some time down there, we keep dogs at Doug's house, and he goes hunting with us a lot. And I've met his wife several times. We'll all go out to eat. So I mean, I didn't know him at all, but over the last 2 years, I've got to know him real well, and super people.
Do we pronounce his name Galbreath or Braith?
Yeah, Galbreath. Yep,
Galbreath. Yeah. Super guy. Got all that nice hair. Silver fox.
There you go. The old silver fox.
That's right. Well, Jeff, always a pleasure. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact you taking this time today. I know you get back from winning the most prestigious hunt in the country, and your father-in-law puts you to work working cows. Now, what's right with that?
With 40-mile-an-hour winds and 35 degrees, I'm like, hey, but no, let me tell you something about my father-in-law. He used to be a coon hunter.
Okay.
He's hunted black and tans back in the days. Back in when Jarvis was young, he had some Jarvis hunt for bred black and tans. He hunted and everything, but just wanted to tell you, he's 84 years old, and he sat there with his iPad on and watched that whole hunt till 4 in the morning.
Man, how great is that? Where do you get a father-in-law like that, man?
Yeah,
he's awesome.
He's a super fan.
Well,
so
I know that your wife has been so super supportive of your hunting, and
big time.
They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So
there you go.
Well, Jeff, congratulations from all of us here at the world headquarters of the Gone to the Dogs podcast. All my friends, we were rooting for you big time, man. You carried it off. It's a great, great story. Thank you so much, and enjoy the fruits of your labor, brother.
Well, man, I appreciate you rooting for us and picking me to win it the other night.
Yeah, how about
that? It felt
that?
good when I saw that on Facebook. I thought, well, he's got a lot of dogs he could have picked, and he picked me, so it meant a lot.
I just had that feeling it was your year, brother, and you pulled it off, and that's great. Just great. Well, folks out there in podcast land, as you know, we've been spending here about an hour and almost 30 minutes with Jeff Ricklefs, handler of Strick's Hardtimes Hobo, owned by John Strickland and Doug Galbreath, the 2023 UKC Tournament of Champions champion. And it's been great, Jeff, and wish you all the best as you go forward with Hobo. And folks out there, if you've got any needs in the way of supplies for your dogs or yourself in this coon hunting game, contact my friends at duhuntingsupply.com. They'll treat you right. If anybody asks you where's Steve Fielder, tell him he's gone down there to Indiana to hunt with the champion Hobo dog and Jeff Ricklefs. He's gone to the dogs.
There you go.